Hello everybody, welcome back to the James Lawrence Allcott channel. I hope you guys are doing wonderfully well. Man United are off the mark. Erik Ten Hag is off the mark. My stream deck has decided to stop. Absolutely heartbreaking. So you won't get these punchy close-ups like that, sadly. So I might have to chill out over here for a little bit. Guys, welcome to the channel. If you're new to the channel, we do it live whenever we can. So if you want to be a part of these lives, like the people who are in the chat right now, you can do so by hitting the subscribe button, but also importantly, hitting the notification bell. Not many of you do it. Hit the button, then you don't miss the lives. Fascinating game. Absolutely fascinating game. Top line for me is that Erik Ten Hag got it right. And he had big calls to make. Really huge calls to make. And it just showed off some lovely, large Dutch balls tonight by leaving certain people on the bench. And actually looking at the bench on both teams tells quite a big story. It's amazing the table now. Isn't it funny how it changes? And look, let's be honest, myself included, I spent all of last week absolutely hammering Man United, and rightly so. I think we all did. Today, I think what I would say is don't get carried away with this, because what I kind of saw was not a reverting to type, but it was almost weirdly a good game for them, because it was a Liverpool side that wasn't a Liverpool side, if you know what I mean. Because when we look at the lineups in particular, that midfield felt really weak today, and I think they sort of smelt blood with that a little bit. They were smart in their tactical approach. And as I say, Erik Ten Hag made some big calls, which I'll talk about in just a second. But when we scroll down just a little bit, for me, injuries and suspensions plays a big part in this. And this is when Liverpool look really poor, to be honest. And it's kind of, I thought they didn't stretch the game enough. The obvious thing to go to is missing Mane, and I think we all kind of can see it. But also, I think when you've got these players out, you lose control and you lose someone who can stretch the play. Darwin Núñez would have been so important in a game like this. Joel Matip would have been so important in a game. Fabinho, in terms of him starting. Thiago Alcantara, Diogo Jota. These are all players that without them, it just felt like Liverpool were consistently kind of in front of Man United. We'll talk about that in a second. Let's talk about the big decisions from Ten Hag as well, because Elanga coming into the side, first 45 minutes I thought was absolutely electric for them. Marcus Rashford playing as a central striker in this game against Liverpool was the right decision. And the big thing, and almost the difference between the two teams really, for my money, was an element of tenacity. The fact that they were up for it. Desire, and runners. Runners. That was such a huge part of this game for me, because I was chatting to my mate Craig, who's probably on a bus right now watching this. Hello, Craig. I hope you're well. And I was talking about this analogy, and tell me if you agree with this one. But in football, sometimes it's a bit like boxing in the sense that you've got to kind of flick out a jab. You've got to sort of fake sometimes just to sort of stop the other team in their tracks, or to the other fighter in his tracks, to make him think about what he's doing and the moves that he might be making. Because when you have those runners like Rashford, Elanga, Sancho less so, but Bruno Fernandes, is going to work hard, then when you have that, it makes the team hesitate. It makes them move backwards. It creates space. It's so important. And that's what you had today. Last week, we saw how flat they were, and I can probably find it pretty quickly, but we'll do it. Let's do it. So last week, and we showed it on the Fallout last week, that Man United were just so flat in how they played, and that was because, let's be honest, Ronaldo was on the pitch. It is a big part of it, because if you don't have those runners, you're going to struggle, right? Let's go to Man United. Let's go to Man United's last game against Brentford, and the reason why it was just so bad, right? Because if we look at the average positions of this game, and this is a game where they had the ball, by the way, in this game, flat. So flat, no runners in behind, and that makes the back line, the opposition, feel a bit more comfortable in what they're doing. They're not getting pushed around. In this game, despite not having the lion's share of possession, Let's have a look at these average positions now. And first of all, actually, let's look at the details, because also when goals are scored, that's an important part of all of this, right? And so they scored the goals in those moments of real threat. But they were vertical, they were quick, they were good in the counter-attack. And if we ever look at the stats as well, you can see both those goals, of course, coming from counter-attacks. And Liverpool, a team that you would think would have moments where they were strong on the counter-attack, nothing. Absolutely nothing. You can see it there. But when we go to lineups and we remember that Brentford game, what you can see here for me is that, a strong back line, but for a team that didn't have the ball, 30-odd% possession, they played direct quickly. Now, there's two ways of looking at this, right? So, first of all, this works for this game. I think what's important to say is that this doesn't work. I can see Man United. Don't get ahead of yourselves. That's the thing I'm trying to say here. Do not get ahead of yourselves, because you'll play, I don't remember who you're playing next week, Southampton maybe, right? And you'll be expected to go and win the game. And it will be very, very different. And importantly, it's another thing we'll show you, is that Man United didn't play short. They played long. The goalkeeper didn't get on the ball that much. And none of that kind of risk was there. It was a very cautious, very safe game where they were the underdog. They had space in behind them, and they were able to hurt the opposition. We'll talk about that probably in a second, but the thing I do want to get across is this. So let me just zoom in. It's a bit pixelated, but you get the gist, right? So importantly, look at Elanga and look at Rashford on that left-hand side. And we spoke about it on the Fallout, which is a video I did earlier today. Go check it out. We were talking about hurting teams in behind their fullbacks. Look at Trent here. Trent, obviously, number 66. There was a real desire to get in behind on that left-hand side. And again, they were looking to target Trent. And you just see it time and again. Teams don't really... I think a lot of teams do like to have these attacking players on the left-hand side. But no one ever goes at Robertson. They really don't target Robertson, ever. It's interesting. And, Trent wasn't terrible. The one thing I would say about Trent is in the first half in particular, it felt like he was really narrow. And this is the thing that I would say about Liverpool, is that I don't feel like they're getting in behind. I don't think they're playing quickly enough, and I don't think they're playing wide enough. And I think you can see that from the average positions here. That is somewhat misleading from the fact that when you go to the heat maps, when Trent is getting the ball in these areas, actually he is on the ball quite wide. So maybe I'm missing something here. But there were a lot of moments where it felt like to me that I'd love to see Trent wider and higher, because for me, if he gets the ball high and wide, Salah can get the ball high and wide as well. It ends up being here and maybe here or here, right? And I know Harvey Elliott came over to this side a lot of the time as well. But overall, I think the big thing if you're a Liverpool fan is the fact that Klopp has got to go. He's got to go tonight. It's a joke. Obviously not. But the players that are missing are really, really important players. And I've got to be honest, let me know if you agree in the comments down below. It does feel a little bit like 2 seasons ago. That said, this game is super different, in my opinion, if you have, first of all, Darwin Núñez playing in this game, because I think that makes it harder for Martinez. You would stretch the play with Darwin Núñez. I think Firmino it was perfect for their midfield. Everything was in front of the Man United back four and in this central area. And Milner's huffing and puffing. Henderson wasn't terrible, but again, he's not a dribbler at times. And again, those players that are missing take players out of the game. And that's so important. They stretch the play, they make the play bigger. And what we've seen with Diaz is, at times he's making these runs, and I don't want to critique him really, because you can see he's giving absolutely everything. But what I felt like I saw with Liverpool a lot of the time was there was a lot of coming back inside, or Henderson playing it safe, or Trent doing the same, or Salah with the ball with 2 players around him. And it was players were never being truly taken out of the game for me. And I think that's the same with Harvey Elliott as well. And maybe that's a confidence thing. Maybe that's a sort of chasing the game thing. You're trying that little bit too hard at times. Maybe that's part of it. I don't know. But from Man United's point of view, what Ten Hag did, I thought, was absolutely superb, because we asked this question, which was, what does Ten Hag do here? Does Ten Hag stick with the system that he wants to play, or does he go back to, the Solskjaer days? And what he did, which was interesting, was you can see he played his way. He did play his way, but it was cautious, and he stepped away from the desire to have possession. We talk about this a lot, space versus possession. He knew that in terms of the weapons that he had today and the quality that he's got in his squad, and maybe this changes when you have Casemiro a little bit, but overall, it was about being cautious. It was about keeping the ball in this half of the pitch because he didn't trust his team on the other side of it. And McTominay, we'll have a look at his stats in just a second. In terms of the spine of the team and the players that are going to get on the ball, they didn't get on the ball. They played the ball high. Rashford worked his nuts off. Alanga ran at Trent. Bruno obviously ran his socks off as well. I mean, he embarrassed himself as well with the diving. And here's another question from... I don't want it to be about this because Man United fans have probably had a lot of tough times recently. Boo-hoo. But Bruno Fernandes as a captain, for me, that's embarrassing the way that he behaves. It is honestly embarrassing. So embarrassing for me. But back to the tactics, back to the game. Eriksen will do the defensive work smartly, but he's not a defensive player. But McTominay, who's the guy who's supposedly that single pivot, 38 touches in the whole game, 17 accurate passes in the whole game. 17. Just, they bypassed him. They didn't use him, and they went past him. And that's not... Sometimes you got to win the game. It's about results. Everyone's going to be... Every single Man United video you'll see on this, you'll be talking about how great we are, how great Man United are. Man United are back. Man United aren't back because there's going to be teams that you need to break down. But for this game specifically, let's look at Martinez. Did he even play that many passes? 7 clearances. We saw it time and again. Just ping the ball out, didn't he? How many passes did he make? Where are his passes? 18 passes from him. I mean, that comes from pressure as well. But De Gea, I think, was interesting as well. Long passes, 8 accurate passes the whole game. If you're playing it short, that would be much, much higher. So it was cautious, but it got the job done. It really did. It really did get the job done. And, playing Alanga, playing Jadon Sancho, and for me, importantly, not playing Ronaldo was so smart because these players feel valuable. That's the thing for me. And I said this in a video last week. It's important. It's important. If you feel... I didn't fart there, by the way. That was my heel. If you feel valuable, you will play better. I spoke about this on Sky Sports News as well. Little name drop there. Sorry about that. When Ronaldo wasn't in the team, Man United finished second. Fernandes had so many more goal involvements. Rashford was better. Martial was better. They all felt involved. That was a team performance. When I'm thinking about man of the match for Man United, let me know yours in the comment down below. Sorry, my eyes worried. I didn't fart. When you're thinking of a man of the match, you're struggling a little bit. That said, what I would say is that Malacia on the left-hand side did brilliantly. I was looking at the stats briefly, and defensively, when we have a look at the tackles, 5 tackles from Malacia, brilliant. Interceptions as well. Defensively, really strong because they're always going to come down that side. But look, Varane with 9 clearances, Martinez with 7 clearances, not messing about, get rid of the ball, stay in the game. And I think against a lesser side, you're going to need to play a little bit differently and be better on the ball, but Casemiro's on his way, so that's going to help. But yeah, in terms of a man of the match, I'm struggling. I'm struggling to pick someone. I would probably give it to Malacia, maybe Rashford because I'm rooting for him. But really, I think Ten Hag deserves the credit there because he's found a way to get a win, and that's all that mattered really. I think they would have taken a draw. I'm sure Man United fans would have taken a draw. Finishing off with Liverpool, like I said, I think it's one where you've got to keep your sensible hat on if you've got it knocking about. Yeah, it feels clunky, it feels undercooked, and it feels like this won't be Anthony Martial. This won't be the season. I'm going to read out any super chats in a minute, by the way. If you want to get them in, we'll have a little chat because I've got nowhere to be. But yeah, I think don't panic. I think a lot of people will panic. But, is Milner the future? Is Henderson the future? Harvey Elliott, can he step up a little bit more? Maybe. Firmino, I thought struggled, but I think it was the thing is, it's again, I keep going back to those players that are out. Jota's going to stretch it for you. Matip's going to progress and take players out of the game. Gomez, I thought I was more nervous for him than he was. I don't think he was terrible. Thiago and Fabinho are just so important to that team, right? Let's have a look at any super chats knocking about. Maestro D, my guy. Hello, mate. As an Arsenal fan, we are categorically winning the league until it's no longer possible to do so. I mean, my sweet Gunners. Is something happening here? Quite possibly. I mean, I'm happy to go back to the standings for you and show you that. Arsenal are currently top of the league. What a missed opportunity for Liverpool. But I think we all got a bit swept away, didn't we? I think we all, if we're honest, got a little bit swept away in it all. And this was actually a harder game because of the personnel that are missing for Liverpool at this moment in time. Aaron Heckmat, Jurgen Klopp, he's got to go now. I mean, he's not. What's he won recently? And by that, I mean the last 4 months. Nothing. So, yeah, I think it's an option. Who are you bringing in? Daesh? Get Pochin, because he's a winner, because he's won stuff. Alex Sanana, Klopp out. Enough is enough. The German got to go, no? Now, how much longer, Robin? I love you lot so much. I love that I have an audience that knows these are the right jokes. Mane hangover. Yeah, we'll talk about that. Let's talk about that. Because, there's a few, bloody hell, a few snooper chats. Robert Faber, hot take. I can't get angry at Liverpool. With all these injuries, having to play a rubbish midfield and with no bench to speak of, long season ahead. Agreed. And actually, do you know what I would say? Is that the more I look at it, the more I look at this table, teams will drop points. Teams will. I can't get away from the fact that I feel like it's going to be a procession for Man City, because I think they're generally very dominant. But I think you'll get out of this, Liverpool. I don't think you will go down. Liverpool, Everton. When's that? Relegation 6-pointer incoming. Maestro D is back again. Jim Fart, man of the match. Fair enough. Deserves my £2, my goat. Fair enough. Porygon, starting Milner in 2022 is utterly shocking. I think that's disrespectful. I thought he was attempting to sort of lead the charge a little bit. The thing was, the sort of not pressing, but sort of engaging the passing lanes was impressive from Man United, and so they deserve credit for that. I thought the problem was more, if I'm honest, Henderson in terms of having a player who'll get on in it and turn and then play it through. I mean, maybe that's where you're then struggling with Milner. Harvey Elliott as well. This is the thing. Trent felt, for me, was like he was playing quite narrow and central, moving into centre midfield, and Harvey Elliott was making that move over to the right-hand side. And actually, sometimes I think you're better off the other way round. Like, pop it into Harvey Elliott, then play it to Trent out wide, and then he can play Salah in. That felt like that was a mistake, in my opinion, something that I would have changed. But I wonder if this is why I wonder with Premier League managers sometimes you go down a road and you've got to kind of stick with it. And I felt like that was the case. Although Trent did play a bit wider in the second half, I just think he's got such a wand on him that although you've not got loads of space out wide, again the pitch is bigger and it will create more space for the likes of Harvey Elliott. And he's just got such a majestic passing range that he can do a bit more damage out there. I think at the times when you get him higher up the pitch, and then Salah can be where he wants to be. Salah, of course, got his goal, but again, just felt like he was surrounded a lot of the time. Matt Hayes, Milner, Henderson, Elliott midfield will never compete in the Premier League. I mean, it's a Premier League midfield. It's not a top Premier League midfield. I think that's the thing. Again, we're talking about concern, and when you're thinking about concern, if that's Fabinho, Henderson, and Keita, you're thinking differently. Or if Wijnaldum's in that midfield again. And I think the same goes with Mane's. It's the stretching. It felt like there was a lack. It feels like with Liverpool, it's all in front of the opposition, which is what really hurt them a couple of years ago. And if we think of when they were at their best, Trent's up here. Salah, he'll kind of come into these spaces, but he'll drive here, he'll go here. It's all different options. He might make this run here as well. Firmino drops deep, but then they're quick and direct with that pass. And Mane makes a few of those runs to then pop in here and pick up the ball. And also Robertson, I think, then as a player who can hold. He knows he can trust Mane, and then he gets on as well. So it's all a lot more fluent. Fabinho as well will be someone that will be driving the ball up the pitch. So without all of that, with the midfield that's there, again, it's just you're not fearful of it, are you? That's the problem for them. Jam Jar with a super chat, thank you, mate. Didn't retracted your message though. Fair enough. Braden Smith's Uncle James, how solid were Varane and Martinez? I think they did all right. I'd hold fire in terms of saying they're complete the solution, but actually that was the one final thing I did want to say was when you look at the Man United squad, again, brave-ish from Ten Hag. I guess it's what the fans want. And however you feel about it, if you think of the old and the new, you know, Wan-Bissaka, Maguire out, Luke Shaw out, Fred taken out, Ronaldo taken out as well. So he did make those calls and kind of, again, I'm wary of giving too much credit. This is not the kind of game that Man United will be playing, and it won't be the ones that they'll be judged on or ripped apart for, importantly. That's the thing I would say. Is that Maguire out of the starting 11? Yep. I think we saw that coming, though, didn't we? Satchit Saina finally can get involved. Big W. 21 is coming, by the way. We'll see. Archie Mowat, United aren't a possession side. Yep. Southampton and Leicester. Exactly. I would say, let's see. But look, all that matters tonight is that you got out of this. And you've got yourself a victory against a team that hasn't lost in 2022. So, happy days for Man United. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Who's your man of the match? I'm going to go with Malacia, but Erik Ten Hag, you're my person of the match. Well done to you. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, guys, on the way out. Massively helps the stream and the video get to new people because people go, oh, people liked it. So hit that button and get involved in the comments. I'll be in the comments for the next hour or so, I reckon. So let's have a chat there. Thanks so much. Thanks for the super chats, guys. Lots of love. And we'll speak soon. Might be doing a live tomorrow, if not probably Wednesday. So again,